How is? So I put a post up earlier talking about this space relations. Now I did mention before that there was a connection between AG Barr, who happened to be the uh, executive general under Trump in his first term. He's not this time, but in his first term he was. And Donald Barr is AG Barr's, William Barr's father, right? The interesting thing about him was, and I don't know if people have seen the video Candice Owens did recently on this. I knew that Epstein was hired by Donald Barr's. Sorry, he was hired by Donald Barr at his first job in the US as a maths professor. And the guy had just come to America, literally just come to America, and he gets put in as a maths professor and stuff like that. And of course, loads of stuff happened at that school where he got let go and things like this. But in 1975, Donald Barr himself wrote this sci-fi thing, and do you know what I kind of liken it to? It's like it's kind of like the way I did the review of Werner van Braun's book when he mentioned Elon. You know how humanity travels into outer space, travels to Mars, and they meet these people who are known as the Elon. It's just very weird, isn't it? Is literally everything just scripted and just unfolding as we go along? Because the chances of something like that happening. But here's another one with this space relations, right? So it's set in a future human empire, and the main character is a diplomat called John Craig, right? And he's captured by pirates, sold into slavery, and on the planet that's known as the Khazar. Now, the Khazar is an interesting word, and that ties into it's a surname, and it goes back a long way, by the way, but it dates back to Ukraine. This surname dates back to Ukraine, right? That's where it originated from, Eastern Europe, but mostly Ukraine. Connolly ruled by debauched nobles. He becomes the slave and later the lover of one of the sadistic ladies called Mrs. Morgan Sidney, and she's one of the elite characters in this. He tries to navigate his way through bondage and political espionage. It's just really, really out there stuff, right? This John Craig then discovers an alien threat who are known as the Plit. Now that word Plith, the only things I can find about that are it's it's an old it's a word that was used in like the 1700s or something, and it meant like trustworthy or righteous or trustworthy or something like that. It was also a game. Like, these are all things I'm just throwing out there. So it might click with somebody. So something might go ding 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 in your head. Just put it in the comments. It was also a game created by Microsoft, and it was you had to fix these gears in order to save the planet, which is another bit of a weird thing, isn't it? It's all about saving like the planet or the human race or something. He eventually escapes being captured by these Pliths, right? Returning to Khazar on an imperial envoy with the goal of ending its slave trade, because on this planet the slave trade is huge. It's one of their main things of currency, gaining currency, is through the slave trade, right? So the theme of the book is very hard to read. Like, there's 240 something pages in it, and I found it very hard to read. So, because the way it's written, it's like, I don't know, it's like this guy, this Donald Barr, never really wrote properly. He never really wrote in a good structure, because it was very hard for me to read. I'm quite good at reading, but I found it very hard to read. Like, maybe that's the whole bleeding point of it. Hidden messages hidden in it, and they just make it so hard to read that people just can't be arsed with it, right? But the theme is slavery and domination, right? The whole narrative in it explicitly condemns rape and forced breeding through its controversial portrayals, John Craig taking part in these acts with little psychological fallout, right? The sexual politics and power of the book, this John Craig and the lady that he falls for develop a torrid romance rooted in unequal power dynamics. Sex is portrayed both as entertainment and political control. Political control. Like, hello? That's the whole point of this guy in real life, was to get all these. And I think Mr. Thomas Sheridan was right, saying that most of these people that went to his island, they were all these scientific geeks trying to find out different ways how they could manipulate humanity as we know it. I think that's the whole premise of that island. Not only was he getting the politicals, the bleeding pop icons, all of them on that island, it was the scientists. Now, these are the same scientists that would have pushed the great whooping cough back in 2020, the same ones. That's why I say practically everything that we're seeing, right? We know about like the clergy and all stuff like that, but I feel like they had to speed it up because the revelation of this guy is one big massive piece of the puzzle. That why we're seeing all of this stuff. We found out about that dirty little secret that they get up to on them islands, and this is all our punishment. This is our punishment. That's the way I see it anyway, right? Um, the interstellar politics that it covers is the war between humans and the Ali Plit. The Plit, there they are again. In mostly, the alien Plit, should I say, is mostly offstage, a backdrop for intrigue, right? So the main purpose of it is to show you that when this John Craig gets onto this planet called Kosar, that he sees that it's run by these people, these like nobles or whatever, these people that they're looked up to. I would probably say like the Skeksis, kind of like the Skeksis, in the Dark Crystal, where these people are held up on this pedestal as if like they've been installed by God, and they basically just use us humans as a playthings, as entertainment, you know. The hypocrisy and aristocracy in it. The Khazars rulers are morally bankrupt yet cultured. Huh? The narrative probes how absolute power corrupts, though without full moral reckoning. The identity and transformation within the book. Craig's shifting roles from diplomat to slave to revolutionary envoy, exploring flexibility of identity, although internal change feels underdeveloped. See, it's because he probably still has a bit of a soul. This John Craig still has a soul, and he sees that when he sees what all these nobles are doing to humans, he can't take it. He can't take it. He wants to correct it. You know, like most of people out there, like myself, when we seen what this fella was up to, we want to correct that somehow, right? Even though we know that it's an uphill battle, because the connections to this guy are just, it's everyone. Everybody is connected through this guy. So I'll tell you about the main characters in it, right? So there's the John Craig fella, right? A Barr diplomat thrust into slavery. Though heroic, his ethical lapses, including participation in rape, making him morally ambiguous. So even though he has something against it, he finds that the only way that this is the weird thing here. He finds the only way that he can try correct it is to, like, be like thy enemy, keep your enemies close. What is it? Your friends close and your enemies even closer type of attitude. It's something deep, deep in the human psyche, that, you know. Lady Morgan Sidney, she's a sadistic aristocrat who enslaves Craig. Cultivated and beautiful, she embodies cruelty with charm. Huh? And then there's the Khazar High Council, the seven nobles who indulge in decadence, setting the stage for political collapse and to attack Craig's mission. The style of writing. Now this is I found it very hard to read. Gothic space opera, heavy on erotica and political intrigue, right? Interspersed sonnets. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was the interspersed sonnets and poetic passages from Craig, which many readers find intrusive. I just found it very hard to read. It was praised, yet critics have called it uneven, pretentious, and morally unsettling. What else? What else is morally unsettling? This fella here. A few notable things from it, right? It wanted the system that I'm using wanted me to scan the whole book in, but I read the whole book, and there's no way I'm gonna sit there and scan page by page into the fucking Dewey Blade head. The prose veers between intimate and bizarre, from poetic introspection to matter-of-fact descriptions of violence and sex. It was initially reviewed as adult-oriented space opera lauded for literate style when it first came out in 1973. Later re-evaluated as disturbing erotic content, sexual violence, especially involving minors, which created a backlash at the time. But if I wonder if the people, when they read that, was this guy even on the radar? The guy who wrote this book employed Jeffrey Epstein. I wonder if the people of the time put one and one together. Was he operating back then? God knows. God knows. Comparisons. It was compared to other things like Dune, I suppose, for the harvesting and the mineral gaining of other lands, which in this one here is other planets. In Dune, it was other planets as well. So space relations is provocative, literate, ambitious, but deeply flawed. Its explicit portrayal of sexual slavery, especially involving minors, makes it ethically troubling. Character arcs are murky, poetic interludes often jar the tone. However, it remains a notable artifact, a 1970s experiment in blending eroticism with the Gothic space opera. But I do. There are books. I'm sure you know them out there as well, people. Like how this fella here, this Donald Barr, writing this book in 1973. I think it was 1973. I know I said 1975, but I think it was 1973. And he's writing about basically the untouchables, the people in power, and what they're really up to. Although he just puts it across as it's these people in space that are doing it. He's actually describing the people in power in air reality. That's what he's doing. And how they see us as how they see the human species as entertainment, or but I've often talked about how I said the Skeksis earlier. Well, I've often talked about loosh, it's human energy, and I really do think that's what they're doing when they do all these things on the islands and all. They're draining loosh from us humans. You could go into it a lot deeper and mention how when we have big football games and stuff like that's what they're doing in the stadiums. They're actually absorbing human energy, aka loosh, which backwards is spelled skill. Just coincidence, I suppose. But there's another book that I found absolutely fascinating. That he was talking about all this stuff in 1973, and lo and behold, the guy who wrote the book also gave Mr. Epstein his first job as a maths professor in Dalton College. Go look it up. Go Google it. Have a look. It's a rabbit hole and a half. but there's definitely something to it because I believe this guy here is a big piece of the puzzle. Why the Earth is on its current trajectory is because of this individual here and who he worked for and what he was doing.